What's up, YouTube? In this video, I'm going to be building out some of this client site that I'm working on. So I'm going to start by heading over to Lumos and cloning that, and I'll just build out a fresh site for this client. So we'll create, and I'll go ahead and call it Ascent Church, and create. And so for the hero, I'm thinking I'm going to make this more of a reusable module where they can change out the text in case they decide to use this on other pages. But this text is set to a very specific width to line up here. So I'll probably need to allow font size control from the component prop. And for this section, I think it's going to be built out more as a custom section since there's so many custom classes that I'll need for this. So I'll just go ahead and drop in a section element. I'm not going to really need theme props or anything for this. So I'm just going to call this something like hero main wrap. And inside that, I'll add the spacers and I'll add a div for hero main contain. And that will have the uContainer class. And inside of that, we're going to have basically a grid. And so I'm basically treating this as the split here. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns within a 12 column grid. So I'll go ahead and do something like a hero main layout. And this is going to be a grid above. And that just creates a grid above the breakpoint and a vertical flex below the breakpoint. And then inside that, I'll have a hero main content. And then if we check out from a larger screen size, we'll see this is one column within the 12 column grid. So I could add a utility, but I prefer to just store this on the class itself. So I'll do grid column and I'll do span 5. So that'll span 5 of the columns. And that's where we're going to have our heading in there. So for the heading, I'm actually going to create it using a custom element so I can more easily break the two spans up like this. So I'll go ahead and drop in a custom element. I'll call this hero main title. And for now, I'll just throw an H2 class. We'll probably change that font size later. And the tag on that is going to be H1. And then a custom element inside with a tag of span. And that is going to have this word here. I'll go ahead and just paste it in there. And then I'll duplicate and I'll go ahead and just copy this word here. And I'll paste that in there. And then we're going to have this SVG, which I believe right now is a font. So we're going to need to outline it, outline stroke, to convert it to an SVG, and then copy as SVG. And then I'll go ahead and launch SVG import and just paste that in. And I want to make sure to give this an ARIA hidden true. So that way screen readers ignore this SVG since it's really just a decorative element. And I'll go ahead and give this a class of, we'll call this something like hero main span. And we'll give the SVG a class of hero main SVG. And then this one is going to be span as well. And so we have that set. And then for the width of this SVG, we want to set it using EM. So it's based on the font size of the actual heading element. So I'll go ahead and just give this a width of something like 2 EM for now. We'll back it down till it feels right somewhere in there. And for this title, I'm going to go ahead and give it a custom font size for now. So I'll go ahead and just do something like 4M or something like this. Let's get it in there. And we'll also go ahead and just switch its weight over to bold. And then we'll need to set the color on this. So I'll head over to my default collection and I'll go ahead and just copy this main brand color for now. And I'll paste that in as the brand 500. And then we'll go ahead and create another color variable. We'll call this brand secondary. And this will be the main version of it, brand secondary 500. And then I'll go ahead and just copy this color. And let's detach, copy, undo. And then let's paste that back into there. And I'll go ahead and connect this hero SVG to that brand secondary 500. And then what we want to happen here is, for now, I'll go ahead and just give this an EM width for now, because this is going to overflow out of its parent column a little bit on this breakpoint. So we're going to do something kind of like that. And I want to make sure that the span is going to be, I'll give this a class of is1, and I'll give it a display of block. So it forces the next one to that next line. And then we'll go ahead and make sure we have just a little bit of EM padding or margin off of this, like so, to get it spaced out. So that's looking pretty good there. And then for the font size of this, I'm going to have it based on the element itself. So let's go up to, let's wrap this in a div. We'll call it hero main header. And I'll go ahead and set the EM width and the font size probably here instead. So what I'll do is I'll give this a width of, let's say, 10 EM. And the font size is going to be here. So let's go 2 EM. And let's say we want the, I'm going to base it off container size. So let's do that here. Let's do container type inline size. Okay, and that way the width can be based off the size of this element here. And then let's see, let's set the font size on this element here on the title. We'll go custom, we'll do 2 container query width, so it's going to be based off the width of the parent. Let's try 10, see what that looks like. Might have to go much larger, 20. All right, so basically we're going to get it to fall in whatever spot we want there, and it's going to be based off the width of the parent, so that way when the parent reduces on mobile, the max width and the font size and everything scales. And that's good there. And then let's head over to this element here, the paragraph. So I'll call this something like hero main content. We already have content, let's say bottom. So this holds all of the bottom content. And we're going to have the paragraph in there, which I'll just paste into here. And we'll copy all of this and we'll paste that in. Actually, I'm going to use the paragraph component because we're going to need line breaks and stuff in here. So I'll just copy and paste that in right there. And let's see if we can put this, let's put this element on a higher Z index. Even just giving it position relative should help. And that way it's not blocking us from editing the text. And we have that extra margin there, so I'm going to remove the uRich text class, and that way, or actually we might leave it on, but we might reduce some of that bottom margin on it. And then what we'll have is the button elements, which I'll go ahead and just drop in 2 of those. Button main, duplicate it, and then we'll copy this and paste that into here. And then what we want to do is we'll make sure that the button element itself is set to text transform of all caps. And then let's see, that's capitalized. It looks like the font size is on this element. So this is the element I need to override that on right here. Perfect. And then what we'll do, I'll remove that. We have a little bit of border radius here, and that is just border radius space 8. That is going to be, let's see, that's going to be the small one. So we'll go right there. And then the padding on this element is 20 and 32. So let's go 20 and then 32, which is 2 rem. Cool. And then let's switch this one out to the secondary style. And let's copy this. Let's paste that in. And let's go ahead and I'll add a div and we'll call this hero main buttons. And we'll put the 2 in there and just space them apart like so. And let's go ahead and just give them a gap. And we'll do something like this. I'll refine the spacing later. And then for the content here, I'm going to give it some default space. So this will be flex. It'll be space between. And then for now, I'll just use something like whatever space I want on mobile. Space 8 is fine. And then now we have the actual visual part, which is going to be this part. So we'll go ahead and drop in div, call this hero main visual wrap. And this one is going to have a grid column, and it can go ahead and span, we'll go 7, so it fills all the remaining. And then within this, we have all of these images, And when they do stack on mobile, they're probably going to have to, the layout's going to have to change. They'll be more side by side. I do want the images taking up height, so I don't want to position them all absolute because if we, depending on the image height, it needs to put the section below down. So what I'll need to do, let's just drop in image element for now, call this hero main visual. Actually, I'm going to switch this over to image wrap because it will have different elements inside there. And let's see, I'm trying to decide if I want to just give the div that holds them all an aspect ratio and then position the images absolute within that. That might be the easiest way to go because the other option is negative margins on each of these images to create the overlap. But I think just to have more freeform control, the aspect ratio div in this case will probably be how I want to handle it. So for now, let's see, let's go here. Let's go, I'm just going to throw ratio square. We can always update that later. And for the width of this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy these and I'll move them over here and group them. And that way I can compare the width of this to the width of the group. So the width of this is 350. The width of the group is 810. So if I do 350 divided by 810, that is roughly 43%. And then the ratio on this, we're going to go custom 3.5 by 5.2. So we'll do custom 3.5, 5.2. And we'll go ahead and give that a position relative. And inside of that, we'll have our actual image component. And then this will just need a cover. So it's 100% within height. I'm actually going to give it, we can leave it set to cover for now. So that's good. Let's go to the content. Let's give it position relative. So it sits on top. It might even need a Z index. There we go. And then within these images, each one has a different size, and some of them will have this SVG as well. So let's go to this one. Well, actually, so let's see the rotation on this. So we'll go ahead and set that here. Transform, rotate. It's going to be, looks like negative 7.6, roughly. So let's try 7.16. There we go. And then we'll go ahead and duplicate that. We're going to give this one a combo of is2. And this one's going to have a different rotation. Looks like it's going to be positive of 574. 574, like that. And its ratio is 3.5 and 4.5. So that is 3.5 and 4.5. Okay. And then we'll duplicate, and we'll go ahead and duplicate this, call it is3. And this one is going to be 699. Let's do that. 699, and that's negative. And the sizing is 3.5 and 4.4. So we'll do that here. Whoops, 4.4. There we go. Whoops, here we are. Sometimes it glitches out a little. There we go. Okay, so this is this parent is going to be relative. The images can be positioned absolute to a corner of the parent. And the sizing, let's see, we need a, this is where we need to make sure that bounding box is good. So really for the bounding box, I want something like, kind of like this for the bounding box. Actually, I might even go here. It depends really if we want it to push the, let's see, let's do this. We'll do like that. We'll let it overflow off the top and the bottom. And then this can go all the way to our grid line, which is right there. Okay. And then let's copy, 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 and copy the bounding box. All right. Let's do that. Paste it over here. Send this to the back. All right. And then let's see. So for that, we're gonna, what we'll do is we'll take the first image, we'll add a transform. And if I transform it right here, let's see, let's go 100%. So it's pushing it down. So I believe that's the way we want the move to be first. If we put it after the rotate, then it would move in the direction that it's being rotated in, which isn't what we want. So move goes first, and then we'll move this. Whoops, messed up the rotate. There we go. We'll move this up. I'm going to get a bounding box on this, just an outline so I can see where everything's falling. And let's move this one down a little bit using all percentages and maybe over a little bit like this. And then move this one over. And let's move it over this way. I think it was something like that, more or less. Cool. And then this one, we don't really need it hanging over that much. So we can do, just have it peek over a little bit. And then the next one is, let's see, this one here. This one needs to be pretty much at the bottom. Guess one thing I should have done first. One thing I forgot to do was lock in the aspect ratio of this. So let's do that. The parent, we'll go custom, and we're doing 7.79 by 694. Okay, that's better. And then that way we can more accurately position these in the right spot. So this bottom corner is going to slightly go over, and then the top corner, that's pretty close to that spot. It might be over just a little bit more, like that, more or less. And then the first image, that's actually looking pretty good. It might need to move up just a little bit more. Let's see, it definitely needs to overlap that corner. Something like that. Yeah, and then it might be over a little bit this way more. All right. This is a little off for some reason. I bet the width of these aren't all the same. So the width of this one is 350, 351. Oh, no, they're all pretty much the same. Why is that not lining up then? Let's see. Let's go here. I'm just going to nudge it over a little bit to get it over that one like it should be. And this one is going to be on the highest Z index. So I'm going to give it position absolute can stay there. Z index 3. That should go on top. And that should be fine for now. So that's the positioning of those. And then we'll have this element. I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and outline stroke, right click, copy as SVG, and I'll head over into the second one, launch SVG import, paste, and we'll call this hero main image SVG, and it'll be position absolute to the bottom middle of the SVG of its parent. And actually, we'll do bottom corner. Why not? Bottom right. And let's see, the width on this is 93 based off of 350. So 93 divided by 350, 26%. And then we just want to push it over using a transform that is based on percentage. Something like that. And like this. Yep, that seems like it's in mostly the right spot. And then we'll change the text color over to brand 100. Looks good there. Okay. And then for the responsiveness of it. So right now I have some just automatic responsiveness going on. Let's see, is this not shrinking? Let's go here. Yeah, because I'm using the UGrid above. I'm going to switch that over to UGrid custom so I can control exactly where it breaks instead of using the pre-built responsiveness. And I'll go ahead and drop in an embed. And actually, let's go ahead and drop in the CSS starter and unlink that, move that up here. And then I can say at container, when the width, let's go width is less than, I'll put 50 em for now. We can always change that. Then we'll go ahead and switch the layout div here to a flexbox. So this will just be display flex, and that'll make the elements stack under each other somewhere down here. And then when that happens, the title element, let's see, its width here is 5em. Its parent here, it's overflowing out of the parent. So I can either back down the width of this parent using percentage. I might just do that. There's a way to make it like if I would have wrapped it in an extra div, but because my container query is on this element, I'm going to have to just back down the width of this element specifically, and that's fine. So let's go here. Let's go set the width here to 69%. Save it. Okay, that makes that go down there. And then the layout on the images, I'm going to probably change on this breakpoint. And yeah, we'll probably just rearrange this to be less tall. So first thing we might want to do is grab this and give it aspect ratio of, let's try 2:1. Let's see what that looks like. Just make it a little bit shorter. That might even be too much. To 1.5. That's probably good. And then the images here. So like the hero image is 3. We're just going to use different transform values. So let's see. If I go here. So one thing I wanted to do was override the transform, just the move, not the rotate. But if I do this, it's going to override the rotate as well. Let's see what we can do. We can, because I could apply the rotate to the child image instead to keep it off, or I believe there's just a transform property. I'll just override it. I'll do, because we might want different rotations on mobile anyway. Let's copy this. Let's head over to our embed. Let's paste it in. And this is what we want. So this is for is3. Here we are. Going to plug that in there. And cool. So that's for is3. What I like to do on this is save, publish, and then just kind of design it on the live site. So if I go over here, right click, inspect, go down here, and I go to this image here and inspect. So this is the mobile media query. Basically, I'm just going to kind of design it to be where I want it to be here, and then I'll copy those values back over into the embed when I'm ready. So like how much of the image do we want cut off? And then let me do the same thing while we're at it for, let's just do the same thing for all of them. So we have is2, and I'll do is1. I'll give this first one that combo class of is1. Why did that clear it? Okay, yeah, oh, because of the custom code. Let's see, and then this is is2. So let's see if we move it. We're going to have to move it up a little bit probably, and over a little bit. Let's get that first image in. So this one, let's see, I'm going to move it down. I might honestly have to increase the aspect ratio on the parent because it's feeling kind of a bit crammed in here. And we don't want these images to overflow so much on mobile because it's going to overlap things that we don't want it to overlap. So let's go 3 by 2.5. That gives us a little bit more space to play with. Let's try that. And then we'll go here and we'll bring this, let's bring it down. Yeah, they're still overlapping quite a lot. Honestly, I might have to back down their width on mobile as well. Let's back that down and see what that looks like. Let's try, we'll go 36%. So that'll be on all of them. So that's going to be right here. We'll go here with 36%. Okay. And then the parent, I went on that one. This was the aspect ratio. So that goes here. And then the transforms for each of them. Yeah. This is where it's helpful to have a mobile design instead of having to design in here. But for now, this is fine. This will work. Let's see. That's a little bit better. I feel like there's more space for it. Yeah, we'll go with those values for now, and I might tweak it later. Let's see. So this is going to be for the first one. So is 1, and then transform. There we go. And then the second one right here. And then the third one is going to be over here. All right. So then I just need to choose where I want the layout to wrap. So right now, if we take a look, it's wrapping before the paragraph collides into the image. So right at that point, and I think that is good. That works for me. So then back to what I said about the component. So if I turn this into a component, and I'll call this something like section hero main, put it in the section group, create, and move it into the page slot. So what I'll have for props is I'll have a prop for text 1 or a heading text 1. And this could probably go in a group called heading. So just to keep it. So this will be heading text 1. And then right here, I'll have a prop in the heading group called text 2. And then depending on the text that's used, they'll need to back down the font size if we're trying to make it fit in exactly that spot. So on this element, this is where I have font size at 30 container query width. Let's see, I really should have just did that extra div. I was trying to avoid it. Yeah, we're gonna do the extra div. Let's go here. Let's go hero main inner. So this is where I want my container query width font size. So this will be 30 container query width. And that way the SVG and everything's just based on that font size there. And then on this element, the font size is just going to be 1em. So it's 1 times that font size. And then that allows me to link that to a component prop. So I'll say calc, and we'll say we'll create a variable called size, var size, and make it fall back to 1 if it's not set. And we'll multiply that by 1em. So that way we can control it. And then on this element or on any parent, if we go to the style attribute and we say size and we say 2, that makes it 2 times. If we go 1.3 or 1.2, so we can kind of just control the size that way. So I'll connect that to a prop called font size, and that'll go in the group of heading. And that way, for each instance, we can dial in. So here, I can make it a bit smaller, 0.9, 0.8, 0.7. Okay. I think is it the max width that's making that? Let's see, 0.5. Yeah, it must be. There must be the width on this element. So what I want to do then, let's see, if we go to, I think what I should have done, and let's try it this way, is we'll set the width on this to like larger. So the width on this element is fixed. This will be so much better actually. So the width on this element is fixed. The width on the child is not going to have this EM width. It'll just be 100% of its parent. Then let's see, if we go to this, let's go here. Let's go 29. Okay. This container query width, that's setting the size of the SVG, the margins, everything inside. And then it's also setting the container type is on the parent. So that way that stays in place, and like if I change the text here, the font size, it's no longer clipping it. So that can go as large as 0.75, even 7 something. And then when we wrap down here, what we're going to do is, instead of setting the header width, let's see, where did I set that width? On the inner element. We're going to reset the width on that to 100%. So if I go to the embed, and I go here, we're going to go inner. Instead of reducing the width of the parent, we're going to go with 100%. Save it. Let's see. And that's on the inner element. That inner element has the width 100%. Here, yep. Why is it so large then? Let's see. Oh, did I mess something up here? Let's see. What did I do? Oh, the width isn't working here. Let's see if we give it, that's only on smaller screen sizes. The width is 100%. Let me give it we'll do it this way. We'll go flex on this child. And then on the inner element, don't shrink or grow. Nope. Let's give it a min width of 142%. All right, we'll work with min width instead. So then here, this will just be min width will change to 100%. And then let's see, that's on the inner element. I wonder if this parent, its width isn't clearing or something. What did I do wrong here? Min width 100%, max width 100%. I guess it needs a max width 100% even on desktop. Nope, can't because of that. Let's give it a width of, this should have worked. Let me double check. Reset that width. Now all of a sudden it's working. Keep this at width. As soon as I change the embed. Let me just clear this out of the embed for a second. What's going on here? Is the inner, the inner element is overflowing. Yep. All right, let's remove that. So it has to be this element, because this is where the container type inline size is. It has to be this element that I'm reducing in size. I think that's where I messed up though, is I want to move that container type over to this element. If I can, container type, inline size. Nope, I can't because the font size is on that element. All right, well, never mind. We're going to go back. Let's go back here. I'm going to delete that extra div. Don't really need it. We'll go here. We'll say calc is going to be 1 times 29 container query width. And the width on this is going to have to be a percentage of the parent. So it'll be something like 120%. Just give it don't shrink or grow. Something like that. I'll give it a little bit of extra space. And then on mobile, we'll just reset this title element back to 100% width of its parents. Or actually, no, we'll have to keep what I had before, where we change this header element. We have to reduce the width of this to make everything smaller. Okay. All right. Go with 69%. Save. Cut it a little bit smaller. Let's see. Oh, I applied something on that breakpoint. All right. That was a little bit of a mess, but I think it is now working. Yeah, that's good. That's going to stay there all the way down. That's good there. For the marquee, if I go timothyricks.com, I'll head over to components, and I'll just grab the marquee component. It's just a CSS marquee. And I'll go ahead and rename it to be marquee, copy it, and that can go inside the container, but not inside the layout. And I don't need the image moving marquee or that one. Let's see. Yeah, there's 2 instances of it, so I just need the text one. And we want that text to go all the way to the edge of the screen, so honestly, I might even move it outside the container, like that. And the text element here, this is built with 2 CMS wraps, and they each have the tracks what's being transformed. I don't really need the wrap. I'm going to greatly simplify this, so I'm going to take all of that out. I'll just call this text. And I'll go ahead and copy the text here, which is going to be this. And we'll go ahead and just link that to a prop. I'm going to turn this marquee into its own component. So I'll just call this marquee, and put that in the interactive group, create. And I'll go ahead and connect the text to a prop called text. And then I'll give this aria hidden true, so that way we're not reading the same text 50 different times. And then we'll just duplicate that text quite a few times. That's going to be inside the track. And we just need to make sure we have an even number of elements. So I'll probably put a few of them in one panel, so that way on a larger screen we're seeing more of them. Let's see where the font size is set. Right here for rim. So I'll go ahead and create a marquee panel, and I'll put all of these in one panel. And I'll give that panel, let's give that panel a flex, like that. Let's give it a min width of 100%. So it's at least as wide as the section. And then flex would be space between. So that on really large screens, we see more of them. This panel would have don't shrink or grow. And then we would duplicate the panel. So we'd have 2. And let's see, we get this little jump here. We have space between. The animation is on the track. So if I just rename the animation name for a second, I can turn that off. And then to see if it's going to work, I apply a transform and I move it negative 100%. Let's see if it's up. What's the animations doing? Negative 50% actually. So that would be negative 50. And then let's turn that on or off. So see how it's not a perfect loop here. So that means it's not going to loop seamlessly. And I think it's because of the space between that I put on the track. So I might need, let's see how else we can do that. Oh, you know what? On the panels, we use space around instead, like that. There we go. And then that should be able to move it. Yeah, that's a seamless loop. So that's good. And then we can delete that. Cool. And then I can adjust the speed to, the speed is on here. So it's just animation duration 40 seconds. So I could create like a variable called, for instance, speed, and make the fallback, if it's not set, be 40 seconds. And then I would just convert this over to a custom element. And then I would connect its style. And then I would have dash dash speed. And then I would be able to do like 10 seconds, for instance. And then it would go, let's try 2 seconds just to show. Yeah, and then it goes super fast. So I can make that like a controllable prop. Because sometimes when the words are longer, it might appear like it's moving faster. So just having speed there would be a good prop to have. And yeah, and then I might do on the hero contain, might do just a bit of margin to space it from that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to have to rework this because each line I think should be centered within the text. So I might even need to split this up where the line isn't part of the text prop. Where we get rid of that. And then I'll have to just put line divs in the middle of each text element instead. But overall, I think that is turning out all right for that hero so far. Still got a lot to build out, but I think this is a good start, at least for this first video. Thanks everyone for watching and tuning in.